sort of a recently introduced bill, but I have just read it, and a number of concerns came to mind that I haven't heard addressed yet. And speakerphone did ask the question about species. You know, we have an invasive species problem coming up the Illinois River, moving into Lake Michigan. And that started at fish farms down in Louisiana, in Arkansas. That's where they introduced that swell species. So we have to be very concerned about invasive species. That's a very important matter, and I can't believe that there's our expert testimony from the DNR is not caring about that. It's very, very true. And the whole matter of permanent licensing means no oversight down the road. This is never going to happen. I'm an architect, I have to renew my license every 2 years. And I have to do continuing education to prove I'm still competent and actually better than I was 2 years ago. So that's a reasonable standard. I think a fish farmer can show that they haven't really degraded their, well, some opportunity to see that they're not producing a contaminated product. Not all contamination is immediately apparent or someone fall down sick, but it could cumulatively hurt someone. And I'm concerned about the individual sale fees from the references to farmers market. Because here in Madison, the Dane County farmers market, for instance, the chefs at the fancy restaurants themselves or others come around to get their artisanal local products that they don't serve in the restaurant. And so having a hole in the regulation for that, if it's included that you can go sell at the farmers market, how do you know what the end use? You also don't know what the end use is for anyone to buy it. So that it just seems like there's a lot of areas here that need to be thought through more. General idea seems to be that we're going to lower our standards and allow more pollution, and we're going to allow less vigilance to avoid unwanted consequences. And invasive species are a problem everywhere. Our climate's changing, so it's going to invite certain other things already. But I don't really want South American, piranha fish or something spreading around my state. I like the walleye, I like the perch, I like the native species, the northern and all that. And there is, as there is in salmon farming out in the ocean, there is a danger of cross-contamination and infection from these captive populations that are similar to confined animal facilities in certain ways, that they're concentrating a lot of living beings in one small, unnaturally small place. And they're being fed unnatural food, usually. So, I mean, I'm not slamming the industry. I think Will Allen's doing a great closed system thing over there that run power, Calabria, and high-end greens, greenhouse. He uses the waste product to feed the plants, and then the plants feed the fish. So it's a very interesting, efficient, and highly profitable closed-loop system, which is that's real sustainable, green, efficient, and smart business. And I think it would be better to promote the not touching natural bodies of water approach to fish farming. And I don't know why we're allowing it at all, actually, in our public trust doctrine waters. So that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
So, this is Senator Holmgren. Mr. Chairman, I would only suggest, and this may have been brought up during Representative Markline's testimony, that this bill doesn't so much relax current regulations as refocus them, modify them, and treat aquaculture facilities as agriculture, which is what they really are, rather than some other kind of industry. And it probably was mentioned earlier, right now, wastewater discharges from aquaculture facilities have to be licensed as municipal sewage treatment plants. I mean, that's the only category they can fall under right now, and that doesn't make sense. These are farms, and they should be regulated like farms, and that's what this bill does. It establishes a new way to regulate aquaculture facilities, rather, I think, than relaxing regulations.
That's a good point, Senator, and I know that the discharge fees have been exorbitantly high for operators that are treated differently, as you're saying, like the municipal operations, and this puts the fees more in line with agricultural fees and would make their operations more cost-effective for them and more efficient. If there are any other...
Could I respond? Because that's all well and good, but it's, from what I read, more pollution is allowed. Claim may be that we're not going to do it, but more pollution is allowed. Time and less regulation. I dispute that this is just a jiggering the status quo. It sounds, and it is materially different than other times. It is. Our public waters are different than a farmer's field. We have, essentially by tradition and because we have gotten home on full environmental protection, we allow a certain amount of pollution from farms, like we allow a certain amount of pollution from other things. But the trend should be towards less, not more. And there are lots of good initiatives going on to manage the waste from farms, to turn that waste into a good product. And that's, that's really where we ought to be going. It's not a waste product. It really it's a feedstock for somebody that didn't go where it's supposed to get used to make more profit.
Thank you very much.
Well, Mr. Chairman, only in response, I've got to say, Senator Halpern again.
Yes.
I'm in regular contact with a lot of environmental groups, everything from the Sierra Club in Cleveland, Wisconsin, to Thousand Friends of Wisconsin, Rivers Association of Wisconsin, Lakes Association, League of Conservation Voters, and not one of those organizations has on their agenda, to my knowledge, the stricter regulation of aquaculture facilities. And that's because these facilities that are well regulated now, and whatever pollution they might happen to discharge is so minor as to be inconsequential. If these organizations which are charged and which take upon themselves the monitoring of our environment, haven't developed legislation or even an agenda item regarding aquaculture, it tells you something, and that this is already and will continue to be a well-regulated industry. And I think check with any of those groups, they just don't have a problem with this industry.
Pardon me if I'm right. If I'm reading it right, this bill was first introduced on the 1st of this month. So those organizations have had no time, and you didn't just say that they looked at and commented favorably on this measure, only on the status quo, what's currently done.
Well, I can assure you that as a person who's dealt long with water and environmental issues myself, I have concurred with Senator Holpern. I have spent time over the years at aquaculture facilities. I have toured them. I have dealt with the DNR. I've been in several meetings with them over the years. This is one of the most, I think, one of the industries that is not just extremely regulated, but also I think is one of the ones that's most in harmony with our natural resources. And I totally support this bill. My name is on this bill, and I thank you for your testimony. And that concludes our testimonies today. We have one registration in favor, and that is Senator Schultz. And for the senators on the phone, you will also